Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wellness for Entrepreneurs with me, your host, Nayo, and with EcoWellCo. I'm super excited that you're here and that you've returned again, or if this is your first video, welcome to this series. This topic specifically has been my own personal lifelong journey, and it's still something that I'm continuing to learn about or to heal from or just to experience and to incorporate and understand within myself, right? So the topic on impulsivity and anger, right? Those are two things that I know a lot of us may experience. And how do we also understand how they can impact not only us on a personal level, but also our business, which, as I've spoken about in many videos in the past, just how much personal is business, especially if it's your baby, your business, right? That's a lot of you going into that. But also how this concept of managing impulsivity and reactions is really when I'm talking about anger, I'm talking about the reactions, right? Or you may just have deep-seated anger within you that could be coming just from anywhere, right? But specifically, at least within myself, one thing that I have personally have kind of teetered back and forth with are reactions or being reactionary and allowing that reaction to be the embodiment of anger or irritation or annoyance or anything that ends up leading to me thinking in the future like, oh dang, like I didn't have to be angry, did I? I didn't have to respond with such intensity at the conflict. I'll talk about a little bit of other things in terms of like one, feelings being valid, right? Or how your emotions being valid. But just because, at least what I'm learning and experiencing in my journey, just because my feelings and emotion may be valid, and you can always express them. Shoot, I am Senorita Expresser over here. I love expressing, especially if you're someone that's like me, where you maybe experience emotions really intensely. It can be really easy to be trapped almost in this reactionary state of existence. And if anger, like myself, is something that is a really big state of, really big way in which we respond to things, then it takes even more of an effort or patience on our part to not always fall within the reactionary trap of anger or any other emotion that we may be experiencing. So I'll talk a little bit about how I have been navigating that, have been learning how to navigate outside of being so reactionary all the time when something pisses me off or somebody says something to tick me off or whatever, whether I'm out and about in the world, hitting the streets, or if I'm doing work or I'm dealing with myself, I'm dealing with somebody else, whatever it may be. And then the impulsivity part is actually, for me, goes hand in hand. And I also want to explore how like these two aspects, which are completely different, but for me they go hand in hand, which is why I've joined them together. How these can also affect relationships. And as we know, a lot of what likely a lot of your businesses are, they also have to do with relationships in some way, shape, or form. And I know that my business has to do with relationship. Now, often enough, which is amazing, I'm really happy about this, in my business dealings, I haven't actually experienced too much anger or impulsivity. For some reason, I am approaching my business life a little bit more with control in certain aspects. Now, the impulsivity piece, that can happen because I can get really distracted, and in my distractions I can allow myself to go off in a tangent and in that direction of a distraction, but then that distraction possibly veers off into another lane of distraction. So if I myself am the embodiment of the business and I'm allowing myself to go down lane X, then lane Y, then lane Z, those lanes are far away from the totality embodiment of the business. And sometimes I can be quite impulsive and allowing myself to go down avenues and lanes for periods of time. We're not even talking about for a minute, 2 minutes, an hour a day that I'm distracted from doing my business stuff. We're talking about possible weeks or months. And this is something that I have had to really understand about myself, is that sometimes my states of existence, whether it be mental states, emotional states, or just like random desires that I have, random impulsive things that I may be experiencing, I can just continue to follow them down whatever path they're leading me down for a period of time. And then eventually I wake up like this morning and I'm just like, okay, let's regain control here. And let's set a 30-day challenge or a 7-day challenge or whatever. There's in some way, shape, or form, I'm always somehow gamifying things for myself. And this just goes not just for business dealings or trying to control impulsivity or doing my best to not react with anger. This goes with anything, with even relationships, relationship dynamics, or the type of relationship dynamics I'm trying to partake in, or if I'm trying to curb a certain habit, or if I'm trying to say, you know what, let's pause on something that I've been doing for the past couple months. Let's just say 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, we're not going to do that. And that's it. I just have to commit to that. And so every morning I'll start with some sort of a mantra or a saying, or I honor myself completely, or I give myself everything that I need today. Whatever it is, I commit to myself in order to help me to meet that goal for the day. So throughout the day, I'm not succumbing to any what past version me would want, but no, I'm going to win this game. So it's a version of me to kind of stick to it, right? So gamifying my experience sometimes can be really helpful. But I want to talk first about, I've kind of given this overview for the past couple of minutes of what I mean by impulsivity and anger reactions, right? But I want to talk a little bit more about how I have been attempting to navigate to get myself out of being so reactionary. And something is that impulsivity can also be extremely reactionary. And my experience with anger and impulsivity have 9 times out of 10 led me into situations that I had to double back and try to mend often. They've cost me money also. And they've cost me time too by not allowing myself to be a little bit more in control. And I will say, I used to pride myself on being completely in control of myself, right? I'm like, my favorite quality about myself is that I'm so in control of myself, right? Why is that my favorite quality of myself? Because when I am actually practicing it, I'm really, really good at it. But that's because when I don't allow myself to be in control, right, then I feel like I'm off into the races in the distance doing crazy stuff. It's not really truly crazy stuff, but it's definitely just stuff that I probably don't really need to be doing. Or perhaps I need to be doing it because that's maybe why I'm doing it. But I do go through these cycles of in control and not in control. And so eventually the question poses, well, at what point in time can we find some sort of a balance between the not being in control and being in control? Because in the exploration of impulsivity and learning how to make, more grounded decisions that aren't so impulsive or reactionary all the time, I have to ask myself, when do we allow ourselves to surrender to a balance? Because I can't control everything. And trying to control everything and trying to be perfect about everything, it's going to leave you angry, upset, irritated with yourself, with things not going your way with other people. You might start projecting on other people, projecting on your business, or believing, oh, well, nothing's working out, so obviously this business isn't meant for me. Of course, that's always something to explore, but you can explore it objectively. Objectively. Whoa, how do we do that? Objectivity. It's like you think about if you're on a date with 2 other people, right? Let's just say you're the third wheel here, right? And let's just say you don't know these 2 other people. You just somehow randomly ended up in this position. Because if I say it's your friend and their partner, you might not be as objective. So let's just say nobody knows each other, but everybody's at the same table. You're looking into the dynamic of the other 2 people, objectively observing it. And you're noticing maybe body positions, things that people are saying, eye movements. You're noticing whether or not somebody's expressing an openness or a closed offness. You're noticing anything. You're noticing how people are dressed, how people are talking to each other. You're noticing tone of voice. You're noticing colors. You're noticing everything around you. You're just noticing. This is the watcher. The watcher is somebody that also is a part of you, but is somebody that can also watch you. So imagining if the reactionary, the deeply emotional, The reactionary part of you that can be more egotistical, I'll say, more like me, this isn't going my way, it needs to go my way. So let's just assume that this part of yourself is another version. So this is person A is the more egotistical reactionary person that's really happy to be in all types of conflict and do whatever comes to their brain first. We're talking about anger and impulsivity. So this is person A. Person B is the watcher. And person B likes to hang out kind of in the backgrounds a little bit, almost as if they're maybe 10 clicks away. And person B is just watching person A interact in life. So person B can watch, and do absolutely nothing. Or person B can watch and begin to slowly make its presence known to person A and say, hey, I see that you've been reacting to a lot of things all the time. You've been really impulsive. You haven't been really allowing there to be some sort of a balance between control, self-control, and flow. So person A may find themselves constantly having to mend relationships after doing something. So now you're doubling back and apologizing and be like, oh, I'm not actually crazy. Or maybe you might actually crazy. This is a loose word that I'm losing here, not to use it in a derogatory way. But you may be going back to people saying, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go that way. Do you still want to be friends or whatever? I'm saying this because I totally just came across this experience recently where I finally had come to a conclusion after a bit of self-reflection and clarity. And instead of it going smoothly of a conversation, how I decided what type of relationship dynamic I wanted and didn't want, I thought the conversation was going to go smoothly. Wow, that thing exploded. And very quickly, I was angry at how that person was coming at me. And instead of me practicing and saying, you know what, let me be the watcher here and just notice this person is responding this way, they're reacting this way. Instead of allowing myself to be objective in the moment and say, this is how I'm feeling based on how this person is reacting. This is how I'm feeling. This is what this person is saying. This is how, you know what I'm saying? Allow myself to observe my feelings and emotions before immediately responding. I just said, oh, I feel that twinge of anger. Bam, we're good. Here's what you get to know. And so, in retrospect, I walked away from the situation being like, wow, that wasn't even the vision that I had for how it was going to go. Now, of course, I would have loved for it to go the way that I wanted to go, but I was also very understanding that, yeah, it didn't go that way and that my feelings 100% were valid, but their feelings were also valid. And that it's not right for either person to invalidate either person's feelings. But this is what was going on. The anger really came when person A began to invalidate my feelings. And so I'm like, oh, bet. Like now I'm angry. But this is the point of being able to take a step back and be the watcher for a moment and say, hey, we feel invalidated. We feel angry. We're about to literally chomp their head off because we're angry. And how do we allow ourselves to step back and not chomp somebody's head off? It takes allowing yourself to be the watcher, to be objective, to be detached, to allow the self to witness everything that you're feeling and experiencing and not simply just succumb to the first primary response. Now, this is not a version of being performative. This is a version of you deciding which conflict is actually worth an immediate reaction and which conflict isn't. And this is the part where you're saying, oh, like even in the concept in the philosophy of Stoicism, they talk about how I can only control myself. That is the main premise of Stoicism, understanding that you cannot control anybody else. You can't control somebody coming at you all crazy. You can't control how somebody may even respond to your more stoic nature. The stoicness is really about analyzing the self. Okay, this person is really being aggressive towards me, or my business partner is flipping the script and I don't know what to do and this is making me angry or sad, or my partner is coming at me sideways and like I got to go into work and deal with this massive project and meeting and now I'm angry and now I might project that onto other people. The stoic part says I can only control by myself. So how can I seemingly detached but still be engaged in the situation? but without it being completely me just launching my entirety on this person. Now, of course, in some instances, being quick on your toes can be really helpful. But there's other instances where perhaps being so like reactionary and not understanding how reactionary you're being, not being aware of why you're being this until after the fact, sometimes that could be more harmful than good. And this is where we get to practice self-awareness. This is where we get to practice active self-awareness in the moment. This is where we actually get to bring the watcher out in the midst of us being deep in the ego and say, hey, watcher, I need some of your help. How can I take everything that this ego bit of me is experiencing and pull out a bit, not to disqualify or discredit the ego, not to devalue the ego, because the ego is actually really important. But how can I make it so that I'm not immediately reacting or responding so angrily or so impulsively because this person made me feel X. This person made me feel devalued. They made me feel angry. They made me, they, right? But in Stoicism, it's all about, I can control myself. I can't control what other people are going to say, think, or do, but I can control myself and my own reactions. So that's the detaching bit. And I recommend, if you're interested in learning a bit more about Stoicism, definitely do look it up. I can link something there in the description so you can kind of get a deep dive into what Stoicism is. There's an audiobook that I listened to that was really, really helpful in understanding the concepts of Stoicism. That, again, something that I can always do is reread or re-listen to books that I've read in the past because they could be truly helpful. So one practice that I really tried in the Stoicism that was inspired by the Stoicism book that I'm recommending was you can take on a piece of paper, let's just say you normally journal. You can take a situation or even your day, write out your day or write out the situation in detail. You can say person A, person B, allow yourself to be noted where you are. Write down what happened in detail and go underline the bits that you can't control. That being somebody else's reaction, something else that happened in the world, whatever. Circle the bits that you can control. Your feeling, how you felt, how you responded or reacted, what you ended up doing in that situation, whatever it is, what you ended up thinking in that situation. You can ultimately control all these things. Now, in some aspects, there's going to be a deep influence from the outer into the inner. But really what this just takes is practice. Practice. You're not going to be perfect. It is probably going to be a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey for me because sometimes I get real mad real quick. Or sometimes I get really scared and I do the most impulsive thing. And arguably the impulsive thing could be the thing that's going to safeguard me because now I'm in my fight or flight. I need to survive. So I'm doing what I think is best in order to survive, to safeguard my heart or to make sure that I can eat later or whatever. But in what instance of within our survival instinct are we truly not really in harm's way? In some instances, we're in harm's way. Listen, get out the way, right? And this is where you learn the difference. But again, it takes practice. It takes practice. This is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. I'm here to say it's not the easiest thing to do, but that's okay. That's part of the beauty of the whole experience is embarking on this journey and going down the path of learning what is easy to do, what isn't easy to do, and how both of them can come together. And you can just practice, bit by bit, a little bit every day. You can gamify it like how I like to do, 30 days of practicing to observe your feelings, to observe how something or someone or some conversation or whatever made you feel, to observe the experience that you're having, to observe the emotions and where they may be hanging out in your body, to just observe, to practice being the watcher. To practice that detachment that allows you, instead of immediately diving in and being reactionary, but allows you to analyze, oh, this is happening actively in the moment. And with time, you'll go from pouncing on every single conflict possible to choosing your own battles. And choosing, even within that choice of your own battles, how you're going to respond and react within them. And that's one of the most powerful things. Okay, so once you've gotten the opportunity to Practice detaching from the ego. Practice detaching from everything you've ever known about yourself, or everything you've ever been taught about. This is how you're supposed to respond or not respond, or XYZ. And then once you've gotten more in tune with the observer part of you, the watcher that I've been talking about so much, the watcher that's noticing how other people are reacting and responding, that's watching your surroundings, but that's also watching yourself and how certain words, thoughts, or feelings come up based on what's happening outside of you, what someone says, what triggers are occurring within you, how something makes you feel, how it makes you think, whatever it is. Once you've taken time to just understand your own personal reactions to things going on within your body, and also have an opportunity to actually observe others, you can enter into a place of understanding. Now, this place of understanding invites you to actually see others, to see circumstances and situations, and to even see yourself for what they truly are. So let's take an example. If somebody's coming at you sideways, or speaking real nasty to you, or just not being very nice, kind of friendly, or whatever, but that is something that, you realize, well, okay, well, let me take a moment to kind of detach from what my normal reaction would be, which would probably be to be nasty back, maybe, right? And let me observe them. I can also observe how I'm feeling, but perhaps their body language is showing that they're angry and upset, they're sad, maybe they're uncomfortable, maybe they're actually trying to feel more comfortable, which is maybe why they're being nasty towards you. Or maybe something completely different. Maybe their body language is showing that they actually want to be loved or heard or something else. By allowing yourself to actually witness what's going on, to observe what's going on without immediately indulging and being reactionary, you give yourself the opportunity to open up to being understanding to what's going on in the current situation. This understanding can lead to just you not feeling like you remotely have to react or respond in a certain type of way anymore. So perhaps as you continue to practice this version of, let me observe for a moment, let me step outside of myself, right? What I've known myself to be, that detachment piece, and now let me observe from this detached watcher state. And let me try to understand where this person is coming from before I respond with anger, with impulsivity, with aggression, with whatever it is that you may typically respond to nasty comments with. What happens? What derives from that? What do you notice? What shifts within you when you give yourself the opportunity to understand what's going on? What happens in your heart, in your mind? What happens in your entire body? Do you now feel yourself feeling that intensity that comes with rage? Or are you now feeling a calmness that comes over you because you're giving yourself the opportunity to understand people for what's really going on? You're giving yourself the opportunity to see below the aggression, below the anger. So this practice of detaching, observing, and understanding, like I said, it's not easy at first. And it can be quite uncomfortable, especially when it comes to observing yourself or observing others and doing a combination of the two. But as a practice, something that I am personally recommitting to, given what I did the other day. Hi, still working on a lifelong journey. But it is something that I personally am recommitting to being the watcher, to practicing detachment from what I've always known myself to be, how I've always known myself to react to things, and allowing myself to actually seek to understand versus seek to immediately respond. Listen to understand, not listen to react. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but it's a really, really powerful practice. Listen to understand, or in this case, seek to understand, instead of seeking to only be reactionary, seeking to only engage in the conflict fully and completely at the same veracity in which it is coming towards you. Because this is where you get to practice controlling yourself, controlling the circumstance, and ultimately controlling, in a way, the outcome that is ultimately in a favor or advantage to you. Now, every single outcome may not seem like it's in favor to you, but when you allow your mindset to switch to saying that everything is working out for my greatest and highest good, everything is working out for my greatest advantage, whatever it is, you do also allow yourself to begin to see things working out for you in that way. So whether or not you're having issues in business, with business partners, clients, you're having business in your personal life, and that could be affecting your business because, again, the personal and the business, they merge. or you're having issues within yourself and you're hoping to take more time to understand yourself, this practice of detachment, observation, and understanding, and allowing things to flow as they will literally transform your life. And you can join me, hi, person who this is so lifelong journey. I'm gonna keep saying this because it's hilarious. At least to me, it's funny because it's like, sometimes I wonder, I've been on this journey and I'm helping other folks, but why is it that sometimes I still struggle with certain things? Unfortunately, sometimes we just still struggle with certain things. And as much as we want to hold on to a struggle, we also have to allow ourselves to let go of that struggle. So as much as you may enjoy the anger, the angry part, the sad part, the depressed part, the whatever part of yourself, there may be a time where you may need to loosen the reins on gripping that side of yourself so much. It doesn't mean that it has to be eradicated from you. It can be used as a very useful character trait within you, but how can you take the typical reactionary, the typical type of, let's just say, angry person you are, how can you rechannel that anger and allow it to fuel a new business venture? How can you allow it for you to be more assertive and going after what you want and applying to those grants or applying to a job or to landing those clients and to being charismatic and to being approachable and to being friendly or to being whatever it is that you're trying to be? There are ways to take that anger, to take the energy of that emotion, of that reaction, of that impulsivity, and channel it into something that's actually for the betterment of not only you on a personal level, but also your business relationship, your business connections, your business brand, your business reputation, your business audience, the light in which you exude as a person and thus your business exudes. So there's so many different ways that you can take who you are as a being and what the things that you may be struggling with and transform them into something that's actually helpful energy. And all you really have to do is give yourself the opportunity to detach for a moment from everything that you've always known yourself to be, observe, and understand. The triple threat, y'all. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. And as cited below, I will attach the audiobook that I found about Stoicism below. You'll be able to find that on YouTube. And anything else that I believe while I'm working on this, I will also attach it below. But this video I found was really, really important. I woke up and I was just like, I need to talk about anger and impulsivity because, geez, this is a lifelong journey for me. And if it's been a lifelong journey for you, do comment, do share your experiences. And also, if you plan to dive a bit more into the detach, observe, and understand space, let me know if you want a little bit more guidance on this, if you would like more of like a breakdown or a booklet or something that really helps you to lead through it. And as always, you can just use the attached journal that I've created to walk yourself through this. So yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Thanks for being here.